Good morning. I'm your host, Michael Kovnat, and this is the Next Big Idea Daily. Now, last week happened to be my daughter's 20th birthday. While it's been a bittersweet joy to watch her grow up, I will admit I'm relieved her teenage years are behind us. If you've raised an adolescent or been one, you already know it's a life stage that can feel like an emotional roller coaster, full of drama, defiance, slammed doors. But what if all that chaos wasn't a bug, but a feature? Today, we're hearing from Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times journalist Matt Richtel, who says adolescence is a brilliant, necessary phase of human development. In his new book, How We Grow Up, Matt explains how teenage brains are wired to question, rebel, and innovate, and how that friction might just be the thing that helps our species survive. Here's Matt.
Everyone in ninth grade hates me. Mom, Dad, everything you make for dinner is terrible. I wish I was dead. My name is Matt Richtel. I'm a New York Times science reporter. I'm the author of the new book, How We Grow Up, Understanding Adolescence. And I'm here to give you some takeaways from that book and from 4 years of in-depth science reporting about the meaning of adolescence. I will preface this by saying that 125 years of scholarship about adolescence have been largely misguided. What we understand now is revelatory, reason for hope, but has some complexities and wrinkles for adolescents that we must understand to keep them healthy. What is adolescence? For the moment, set aside the idea that adolescence is a period where puberty sets off young people to be able to reproduce. I'm not speaking here about the sexual sides of adolescence. I'm speaking about what is happening inside their brains and why. Adolescence is a process with a purpose of integrating the known and the unknown. What is known is what parents teach. Use a fork. Do your homework. This is how the world works. This is what you do to survive and succeed. What is unknown to these adolescents is what actually works in the real world, and it is a real world that is transforming and changing. Adolescents are reconciling what they've been told, what they actually experience, while carving out some new ground that lets them not be beholden to the generation prior. Adolescents are information processing machines that are highly sensitized to make sense of the world and mold it. This process is vital for our survival and their survival. Biologically, adolescents are programmed to test and probe. Think about this basic idea. As children, they've been cared for, and they have not had to understand so much about the world around them. They've been tuned in to the voice of their parents and cared for under their roof. But now they are maturing into creatures that must care for themselves and their offspring. This is a major transition. Biologically, at puberty, the hormones that get released sensitize young people to the world around them. They begin to tune into their peers, the people they must work with to survive, and less so their parents. During this period, adolescents are wired to reward seek and be more tolerant of risk. In this way, they can probe and experiment with a little more resilience and a little more courage than someone who's already stagnant. Experts think of this period of the adolescent brain and say that there is more accelerator than brake. But again, please understand why. They are in the ramp-up period to dealing with reality. Conflict. The idea of conflict has been the singular watchword of adolescence since its scholarship began in 1904. But the reasons that people assumed there was conflict were largely wrong. In fact, at the beginning, the original scholar, a guy named G. Stanley Hall at the turn of the 20th century, thought that adolescents were a primitive form of man or human, and adults were civilized creatures, and the clash was between the primitive and the civilized. What followed subsequently were ideas that the conflict stemmed from ideas around repressed sexual urges in adolescence as they tried to become mature while dealing with these intense feelings inside them of, for lack of a better word, horniness. We also understand that that was simplistic. The conflict that you experience as parents and adolescents experience inside of them comes from this idea of reconciling the old or the known and the new or the unknown. Within individual adolescents, this is conflicting because they are trying to make sense and honor what they've been told while taking in lots of new information from a peer group that is in a transition period itself. Here are a group of people saying, this is what I've been told by the people who love me and care for me, and this is what I'm experiencing in the real world, and they don't always add up. In this sense, it's important to think of adolescents both as individuals but also as a generation, because the conflict comes from generational shift as well. Think of the generation of adolescents as a group of startups challenging a corporate structure that already exists. But these are clumsy startups. They are coming up with new ideas and new ways to frame the world and new ways to understand it in the context of people who already feel like they understand the world, and we as parents are management. And here come these younger people saying, let's try something else. This is what we are discovering in the world. That is a source of conflict with one final caveat. The reason that young people are carving out new areas is not simply to be irritants. It is because for their economic survival and for the survival of the species, diversity is vital. We learn this in various systems biologically in the body, that diversification of ideas, of biology, of genes is what keeps the species from becoming stagnant. We need adolescents to carve out new ground. They are doing the yeoman's work of our survival. There are some new problems associated with adolescence having to do with how the world is changing. The first big one is that the age of the onset of puberty has fallen. In the year 1900, adolescence started at around the age 14 for girls, and now it starts at 12 for girls. Boys are roughly on the same time scale. What does that mean? When puberty hits, aside from the sexual capacities that it allows, it sets off some hormones that highly sensitize the adolescent brain to the world around them. I've explained why. This is how they matriculate and learn to compete with and cooperate with their peer group. But this sensitization of information is happening at a time when information is flooding the adolescent brain. We are in the information era. Things are coming fast and changing quickly. There's a lot of talk that the device, the gadget, the cell phone is leading to a mental health crisis among adolescents. This science is actually quite complicated and not entirely clear. But a big takeaway I'd offer here is you've got an adolescent brain currently highly sensitized at a younger age during a period in which information is flowing fast and furious. Experts refer to this period as causing a neurological mismatch between what adolescents take in, or how much they take in, and what they're capable of processing. Sometimes this leads that information processing machine to shut down. It can take the form of anxiety, depression, and lots of other factors that we've seen in society. That doesn't mean the phone is to blame. Rather, it means that there's a mismatch going on that adolescents and the rest of us experience too, and it's one we need to confront. We have a profound opportunity to take lemons and make lemonade. Now that we understand what's really happening, a kind of gap between what is taken in by adolescents and what they can process, we can begin to help them and help ourselves. What do? The first thing is when your kiddo says, everyone in 8th grade hates me, I hate all the food that you make, I wish I was dead. It is not possible in those moments to directly take on the substance of what the young person is talking about. Those are moments of information overload. And when you have a time of information overload, what the system needs is not a conversation, honey, everyone in 8th grade doesn't hate you. What the system needs is a reboot. And this is what we're beginning to understand about how to help young people. There are tools like cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, but much simpler ones I'll get to in a moment you can do from home that help reboot the system. They include simple tasks like taking a freezing cold shower, going to get some exercise. I've heard of putting your face in the snow. Why? What these activities do is they get the adolescent out of this intense emotional experience that has effectively paralyzed their brains, paralyzed the information system, turned their internal computer into blue screen, and help reboot it. Right now, we have an opportunity as a society to take young people and help them work through a teen life crisis that will equip them in the future to deal with a fast-flowing information society that is not getting any simpler. My big point in how we grow up is that we can grow up collectively. Adolescents are reconciling a fast-moving world with a brain that can be overwhelmed. But so are we as adults now. Collectively, we can grow up by learning the coping mechanisms that get us over this difficult period that is unyielding. I am hopeful that now that we understand adolescence, we can tackle it together and make for a happier, healthier, saner, younger generation.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, everyone, you can get a copy of How We Grow Up using the link in the episode notes. And remember, go to nextbigideaclub.com to find out about our hardback subscription club, where we send you the best new nonfiction books as selected by our curators Malcolm Gladwell, Adam Grant, Susan Cain, and Daniel Pink. Check it out at nextbigideaclub.com and use the code DAILY for a 20% discount. I'm Michael Kovnat. See you tomorrow.